Yeah, what is going on? It's Shooting the Shit Uncensored. You know it's the dad bod god, the bald, the beard, the fucking beautiful Piers Austin. And tonight I am joined by a guest co-host, the original greaser, Robbie motherfucking Zucco in the house. Robbie, how you doing, brother?
Hey, I'm doing great, brother. How are you?
Hey, I'm always good. It's good to have you on the show. It's always a pleasure to be joined by you tonight. Man, we got a very special show, actually, because originally this show was going to be Mark Mercedes returning to the podcast, the three of us having a conversation, but we got a late fucking addition. We got Bobby motherfucking Blaze. I've got to put the motherfuck in there, all right, because last time he fucking pulled me up on that shit. But I'm really excited to get into it. But before we go any further, I need to take a quick second to thank our amazing sponsor who's sponsoring this episode, and that is healthvape.com. Now, Health Vape is your healthy vaping alternative. All of their products, no nicotine, no addictive or harmful chemicals. They help restore your energy while giving you the vital fucking boost you need to get through your day. Go and check out Health Vape, all of their vape and pod products. Use that promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Now, this episode, you know, it's good to have you on this one, Robbie, because I'm really excited. The conversation we've had with Bobby previously was great. It's one of very high in the ratings.
Memorable, that's for sure. Definitely memorable.
Dude, it was great. We spoke about ring rats. We spoke about wrestling training. We spoke about Chris Candido. We spoke about the Malinkos. We spoke about everything and anything. So I'm glad to have him back on. And Mark Mercedes. Now, Mark is an icon in Australian wrestling. Okay, so, you know, Robbie, I'm not sure if I told you this story, and I'm not even sure if I told Mark this story. When I first started hanging around Australian wrestling some 20 fucking years ago, right? IWA was my first experience into Australian wrestling. And, Mehdi Basiri was a friend of mine, and he would take me along to the shows. And I would be like this young 18, 19-year-old kid just running around. I was fucking intimidated by Mark Mercedes. He scared the shit out of me because every time I'd go and try and speak to him, he'd be like, I'd feel like I get the cold shoulder. I've had the conversation with him now, 20 years past the fact. I understand the fact back then I'm a 20-year-old Mark who's just fucking trying to talk wrestling to someone, and he's running a fucking show. So I get it now. And it's kind of cool that me and Mark have become friends since then. But it's always great to talk to Mark because he's got such a great insight into the world of professional wrestling, a great mind for it, much like yourself and Bobby. So tonight's a treat. I'm going to sit back and I'm going to really enjoy myself with this one.
Yeah, like me too. Look, you got to remember, these two guys were my trainers. Mark, I started with Mark, and then Bob, I went over to the States. They're both a mentor to me. So they taught me from the ground up, and they're excellent trainers, excellent workers. Mark is an incredible heel. And I don't think I haven't seen a heel come out of the woodwork like he was just a natural hated guy when you walk out there. He had that presence about him. And then Bobby was just an incredible worker. You know what I mean? He just natural born worker. And I'm excited. Like I said, I'm here to do what I usually do, is just shut up and just listen to these guys talk.
Well, let's get into it, baby. Let's get into Mark Mercedes and Bobby Blaze on Shooting the Shit Uncensored. Yeah. Boom, we are live. Welcome, gentlemen.
Howdy.
Hello.
Wow.
Welcome, fellas. Good to see you guys. Good to see you all.
All
Four
right.
faces only their mothers could love, huh?
That's it, man. That's it. Bobby Blaze tuning in early in
Yes.
Thursday morning over in the United States. Thank you for
Good to be back on. Yes, thanks for having me back on. I appreciate it. I remember Mark Mercedes from a long time ago, man. I was just a young kid, about 10. I used to see him in Tampa, and I'd ask, could I carry his bag? You know, he was, yeah, man. Yeah.
What'd you get in return?
A free ticket to the wrestling shows at the roller rink.
Plenty of rats there, yeah?
Oh, dear.
Well, you know, getting into it, Mark, you know, like it's been 2 years since we had you on last, bro. So this is kind of it's great to have you back on, and obviously joined tonight by some great company as well with Robbie and Bobby. Jesus, there you go. You guys really set me up on that one. But Mark, like, dude, you know, starting off, man, you know, you guys have got a big show coming up in October, St. John's Bowling Club. You know, how's everything been for IWA? You know, since the lockdown here in Australia, we've had, you know, lockdown after lockdown, things getting back up. How hard has it been for a promotion to really, you know, get a little bit of traction behind itself in the last 2 years?
Well, I guess for us, probably a big difference is that we're one of the only companies that tour, you know, regionally. So a lot of the regions have done it pretty tough. So to get back out on the road and tour regionally, a lot of the towns just simply aren't ready. So yeah, you look, you know, it's just been a slow rollout, but we're working hard now to start working on next year. We've got a big January tour coming up, which we're currently working on booking, and it's just, you know, fun to be back.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the thing with a lot of, you know, shows is after those lockdown, after those 2 years is coming back and, you know, getting, you know, I think shows are seeing more and more people in attendance because those wrestling fans that never came to a show are now going, fuck, I've got to go see a wrestling show because I don't know when we're going to get locked down again.
Well, we went on the January tour, I mean, the 2022 past January, and it was so lucky that the tour even happened. I mean, we just started off and we had, 4 or 5 days up the coast. And literally as we got out of Sydney and got to our first date, COVID hit again and Sydney went into complete and utter lockdown. You know, there's 100,000 cases a day and we were all stressed. What happens if the crew gets it? You know, we weren't even allowed in parts of the venue. We had to stay in the auditorium. How we deal with, you know, our VIP experience. So everything had to kind of change because of just the COVID situation. And yeah, look, you know, crowds were certainly down from years past, but you know what? A bunch of people still came out and they enjoyed it. And, you know, it just goes back to people still want to get out and mingle and watch shows, whether it's wrestling, the, you know, magicians or, you know, anything that's live. They still crave that live entertainment. And, you know, it was good to get on. And we had some grave doubts that the tour would actually handle, but it did. And we got through it. And we actually got through it without literally anyone getting COVID. Literally the week after, I think nearly half the crew came down with COVID. But, yeah, you know, it's been a trying year. And I must admit, I've kind of had a bit of a, you know, some personal things I've dealt with all year. So I probably haven't had the ambition or drive to do as many shows as I normally would have. But I think also, you know, after 20, you know, how many years I've been in the business, 23, sometimes you just need a rest. You need to walk away from it, you know. And it's just been good, you know. I've had that, and I've focused on myself and training, and you know, it's you know, it's been all right.
After like so long in the business, and this probably goes out to all three of you as well. Like, do you find like sometimes it's hard to find that passion, find that motivation, you know, for shows, for training, for like just to be around it?
1,000,000%.
Robbie?
Oh yeah, for sure, man. I think the break during COVID gave me a chance to kind of have a perspective on things where I was personally, and I had been going to maybe a show every 6 weeks. There was a couple shows locally, and they would run opposite. So I'd go every 6 to 8 weeks. I'd choose which one I'd go to, and just I wouldn't get out in the house a lot anyway. But when that COVID, they locked us down, man, I said, if this thing ever lifts, there's not a lot of fucking going on that couch or this chair. And when this thing lifts, I'm getting back out there. I'm going to be doing something I want to do, which is professional wrestling. And I've been going to a lot of different shows, seeing a lot of different talents, but I think that 2-year hiatus for me is like, I will get, like the concerts, like I said, I will get back to something I enjoy doing and get back and seeing people live. And around here in about, a 2-hour radius, there's been a lot of independent shows that have ran. And, we've had 2 this weekend, 2 the following weekend that are really local that I can go to. It's just, I think for me that if it hadn't been for that 2 years that they, basically, were locked down or what have you, I probably wouldn't have, I'd probably say, it's all I can do to try to get to the gym once a day or go for a daily walk or what have you. But I'll go to this show over here and watch these guys wrestle or what have you. But now it's like, no, I'm getting back out there and seeing some of these live shows. So I agree. It is hard though, as you get older to say, okay, I want to go train, or I want to make these shows this week, or, and so, but that 2 years helped. Like I won't say it helped, but it mentally messed you up a little bit, but I think it gave me time to recover mentally from something I enjoyed doing at one time, So.
Because I feel like, sorry, Robbie, go.
No, you go for it.
No, I was just going to say, like, I feel like with anything, like if you do something for a long time, and even if you're passionate about it, I feel like you do get a level of being burnt out if you do it consistently for such a long time, and you sort of like just hammer yourself down. Whereas like after a while, you just need to take a break. Like if I have big weeks doing like, multiple podcasts a week, by the end of it, like the last thing I fucking want to do is like sit in my office or even look at a fucking phone or even talk about wrestling to anyone, because I'm just like, okay, I need, I see it in myself. I need to disconnect from this. I need to get the fuck outside. I need to do something else that isn't this.
Yeah. Well, you need to reinvent yourself throughout the process. You know what I mean? Otherwise, you just get bored throughout everything. If you're doing the same old shit, you're naturally just going to bury yourself. And so you need to reinvent yourself, come up with a new gimmick, come up with something fun, especially when you're in independence. You know what I mean? Do something. You got the creativity to do it. So, over the years, I had like a couple of characters or one for a long time, and then just changed it around as I got older. And now it's actually really fun. So I actually enjoy my wrestling now than I did when I was younger.
Good for you.
Do you think that's more because of the character that you've got now is more like interactive? It's a fun character, but Rob Matrix was kind of like, not generic, but it was kind of like he was just
stale. Yeah, but you get stale. Like with anything, you get stale, runs its course. You need to do different stuff, and if you don't, you'll naturally decline, and you won't want to progress. So when you get a bit of a boost and you just like to do something different, then you go for it. You know what I mean? So it's I think you need to constantly reinvent yourself and do something all the time. Doesn't mean you do more moves or something in a match, or it just means that you do something to entertain. So
I think that's like with most entertainment. I mean, like, you look at the biggest bands in the world. If they didn't evolve, they wouldn't be around. They were the same act and did the same songs.
Correct.
Same with wrestling, and like other entertainment as well. It has a high burnout factor. It's not like you're at a 9-to-5 job where you switch off and walk home, and then when you're wrestling, you're on the road and you're touring. It's a 24-hour deal. You perform. You're there. You're still at a hotel, you're still having to do that. Like, it just doesn't turn off. So, like, when you do that for year in, year out, that becomes a high burnout factor.
100%.
But, I guess like anything as well, you look back on the time and, if you're doing something you enjoy, it's not a job. It's just, it was a lot of fun. I mean, geez, like the three of us, like the road stories, the times on the road, there are lifetime things that you will never, ever, forget.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of road stories, what I really want to know is when you guys were training back in Florida together, I want to know how you guys met, what got you guys, becoming, super friends, and why. What are the best stories you guys have, and the best memories you guys had when you guys were training?
Now, like I said, I was about 10 years old, and this Australian was no. I recall that was in Tampa, and got the message
Come back from the Maritimes.
I just got back from Maritimes. That's correct. And
Yeah.
I've been over there. I had been there twice, and I was at the school and I was helping some with Larry, Malenko, and Dean was in Japan, and Larry at this time his health was declining a little bit, and I got a call for my buddy Rico and myself. The two Australian boys were coming in from Australia to go and pick them up at the airport. And now, Mark, it may be a little bit different than what I'm recalling, but I do remember we went to the airport and picked you up, and you were going to go back to Malenko's, to your room. But you guys wanted to go see the ring first thing. It was like, you had to go. They had to go. He got his name Mark very, very honestly, but we had to go out. We had to go out to school. They had to see that ring. I know, being a lifetime wrestling fan, the enthusiasm, but they've been on this long ass.
Well, we landed in Mecca, right? So, like, you gotta.
Yeah, no, so I can say you've been on this long ass flight. I think you had a layover in LA. Then you come, the rest of the way across the country. And I'm sure you was worn out and jet lagged, etc. But man, you take us to the ring. We want to see where's the training facility, And before you went to bed or wanted to get anything to eat or drink or anything like that, it was like, we took you out there to where the academy or the rings were set up at that time. And man, you guys were just this wide eyed looking. I'm like, oh man, touching the ropes like you would do, and just normal things that
shaking the ropes.
Do. Yeah, just so that's what I recall just meeting you, and then I think it was like an early Sunday morning, and then you all came to camp starting on that following Tuesday, and just started getting in the ring, and going at it, man, and busting your ass, paying attention and listening, learning, and from there, of course, it was just myself and Rico, and worked with Mark, and he had a buddy named Greg, and they just came and we always spoke, and as they got better and got ready for matches and stuff, there was opportunities there to set the ring up and things like that. So I know Greg did several times. I'm sure Mark did. You'd go out there and you'd meet the ring truck somewhere at a Stuckey's or somewhere, and that's old restaurant. I don't think they have them in the South anymore, but a lot of guys would go and park their cars like a car park and then follow the ring truck or go to the next town over, whatever. Or if I wasn't doing the ring, at the time, Mark, I guess you rode with me quite a bit in my Thunderbird I had at the time.
Yeah,
so that gave us plenty of time to. I don't know that we even turned on music in the car to or from a show. We would just get in and start talking, and make that connection. And 98% of the talk was, pro wrestling. It's just training and who's doing this, who's doing what, just being fans. That's one thing about professional wrestling, and I don't mean to ramble on, but I will for just another second, where it's culturally across barriers. It doesn't matter if someone's white, black, Australian, American, Japanese. If you love professional wrestling, and I talk about this in one of the stories I put out there called Yard Time, where I did a show in prison, and the guys self-segregate. Blacks go one way, bikers go another, the Hispanic population sits in another section. They segregate themselves. But Muhammad Ali had been at this prison about 5 months before I ran a wrestling show in here, and he did the same thing. He transcended, age, color, religion, all those things. And that's kind of what pro wrestling does. So when I first met him, that was the thing. We had a connection of professional wrestling. people that he had watched as he had grown up, being a fan, the same with me, and they're just talking wrestling, and that love for business. Mark, anything else am I leaving out? We'll get to your birthday in a minute.
I was just going to ask that. I heard a little birdie told me that Mark turned 21 over in the United States, and that was a bit of a blowout for him. So
I remember you took me to Clearwater, Florida. I think when it was the first time we went to Clearwater. You talked about listening to the radio. We did, because when we went to Clearwater, I think Nevermind, Nirvana just came out. And I remember driving down through Clearwater listening to Nevermind, Nirvana for the very first time, thinking this is so fucking cool. Wrestling in Florida, here listening to Nirvana for the first. Yeah, it was some pretty sweet time. Yeah, we had a lot of fun. Like, I think it was just we didn't try to be friends. It was just naturally just kind of bonded, and we just sort of it was just a lot of fun. And then, there was just such an interesting mix of people at the Malenko camp when we were there, and including the Japanese. Do you remember? And I think I've told you this before, Bobby. I think I've even told you, Rob. Do you remember with the Japanese kids that came there? And then, if you remember, like the Malenko School of Wrestling was like a little industrial state. You know what I mean? Like warehouses and there's rain. Anyway, I think must have been in one of the warehouses or somewhere near there. There was like a little townhouse or something where all the Japanese kids, and these Japanese kids would just turn up unannounced. Yeah. At Larry saying, "I'm here to train." Larry had no idea these guys would turn up. Right. Anyway, there used to be a pond near the school. And there used to be like an abundance of ducks that used to live in this pond. It was beautiful. And the Japanese kids came in, and over the months, the ducks started disappearing. And we were all trying to work out where the ducks had gone. And lo and behold, we worked out that the Japanese kids had a lot of money. It was pretty much free food. Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. That was another thing too, though. It's funny. One of them slept in the closet. Do you remember that? Yeah, literally in the closet. He had no room. Slept in the closet. Yeah, he was like Kramer written out to George,
and that kid grew up to be the great Muda.
There you go. Exactly. But that was another thing, though, that Mark and I bonded on. And you're making these trips. And at the time, I remember Malenko would get on Mark about his eating habits. He was young and over there learning conditioning as well. So I'm a big eater, always have been. And luckily at one point I was could stay in shape no matter what I ate and this and that. But Mark and I bought. He had to have Burger King. Loved Burger King. But the big one was though. We've got the Waffle House, and Mark had to go to the fucking Waffle House because they're open 24/7, 7 days a week. I don't even know why they put locks on the doors. They never. Their motto is we never close. So I mean, why do you fucking put a lock on your door if you never close? But once Mark, it was like I don't know how to describe it. He got that first bite of Waffle House, and it was just like you can tell him, Rob, what Mark, he took a bite, and man, the next thing you know, he's like an addict, just
I love Waffle House.
Where can I get my next hit? When's the next visit to a Waffle House?
And then I graduated to White Castle and then Cracker Barrel. I know the list goes on. Stop.
Yeah.
But I could have to say I'm half. It's only taken me about 30 years to work that Waffle House off.
And good on you. Good on you. That's awesome.
And is it true? Now, Mark used to tell me this all the time whenever we trained. Is it true that you guys trained on concrete whenever you guys did your bumps? Now, I find it hard to believe, but was it true? Or was he just telling us that because we have to train on some shitty-ass mats sometimes?
Kayfabe, I don't know anything.
Okay.
We used to get beat. We used to get beat by 2x4s across the back, train on concrete. And even though it's Tampa, we trained even when it snowed, So, yeah. No, we actually had two pretty nice rings set up at the time. They was, really growing at that time. The academy was. So,
do you remember Larry? He'd be training, and he was the funniest ass guy. I was very, very lucky that Larry took me to his house and let me live there, and I learned so much, just not at the camp, but when I was living at his house. But he had these people skills. It was just amazing. And of course, when you're in he had a business. His business was obviously training. He was making money, and some guys are going to obviously make it. There's some guys that are not going to make it, and so he's open to everyone. But I remember Larry one time. He's so good with his face. He's just like, I can't even remember who it was. It might have been Ricky Starr or someone. Anyway, chewing Larry's ear off about what he was doing, everything else. And I'm not sure if he handed him a tape or he handed him something. And Larry, as sure as day night, grabbed it. He's going, "What do you think? Have you seen this?" And Larry goes, "Yeah, no, I've seen it. I've watched it." And he barely is even like taking his eye off what was happening in the ring, talking to this guy, puts it into the drawer, closes it, and then just keeps going. It was just so funny. Like, It was a master at work, wasn't it? Like he just,
yes.
And the thing was, he had this guy Happy, who he's not even like communicating with, whereas he's doing the wrestling in there. It was funny as shit.
And he would say, one time I had moved back in Kentucky prior to meeting you, and I went down there for a couple-week vacation. I was just going to do some dates, and also get some ring work in. And I hadn't been there for like maybe 6 months, so I took this chick back with me, and he said, "Yeah, every wrestler needs a girlfriend. A wrestler without a girlfriend is like a ship without a rudder. You'll never go anywhere." So he puts that over, makes me happy because I have this pretty hot chick. And then the next person's like, "Man, the last fucking thing you need in this business is a goddamn girlfriend." Tell him, Mark. Tell him what he told you. You're gonna make $100,000 and get 3 divorces. I mean, it's just one of those things. Like he knew, like the psychology is like, okay, this will make Bobby feel good, because he's got this girlfriend. I was baby face him this away, that fucking stupid Mark. Did he a baby face Mark saying, "Oh yeah, I can see you making lots of money and feed them the business is very lucrative. You're gonna, so it's always one of those things."
And I think at the time that we were there, we're pretty lucky because I think probably Larry towards the end knew that he wasn't well, and he never ever let on that he wasn't well or he was
right.
sick, kind of things. And it was probably the last couple of years. And I think part of when we were there was like he wanted to install this knowledge that he had that he wanted other people to take on because he probably knew that he wasn't going to be around forever to give this. So we come back from school and he'd sit down for hours and just talk, and not just talk about wrestling, but behind the scenes and about promoting all these things that I knew nothing about. And he kind of just took me in the wing. I have to be so thankful for what he did.
What I do now, I'm working with some young students, and I tell them, and it's similar to what Larry used to say. And I tell them that I see them, they're gradually getting the wrestling down, or they're very good at the technique or a particular hold, or maybe some of them are even getting a little bit of the psychology. But I try to tell them this. I said, this business is more than headlocks and hammer locks. Mm-hmm. It's how, when you get to the town, how are you dressed? How does the promoter or other people in the building see you? How are you conducting yourself at catering? How are you conducting yourself in and out of the ring? Not just your character, but as a human being. So it's a lot of So I tell them, I can get you in a headlock and a hammer lock and show you these things, but it's the stuff outside the ring that'll get you. That promoter will bring you back. Did you shake their hand? Did you leave off a couple of photos, or do you have a stream that you could show them nowadays? Those type things, because the business is evolving, and so many people over here seem to be trying to get back out on these independent scenes, and they could choose and put any 5 or 10 people on a show that they want to, and if you want to be one of them people, you've got to be better than just what's in the ring product as well. So I always say that's kind of what Larry was telling us. I think Mark was, some of it was like, this is how you promote a show. This is how you, this is how you greet some of your sponsors and things like that.
Yeah. So you got to have etiquette and be professional, pretty much.
And Bobby, this is completely out of left field, but I know we chatted on the phone the other night, and we're trying to work out, we're talking about a certain wrestler. His name was Jim Steele. It just came to me just then. Do you remember who I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah,
we
were trying to rack our brain. It just came to me as you were talking. I don't know what just brought that in, but it was the guy at the roller skating rink, right?
Yeah.
Should we elaborate about the roller skating rink?
Please do. Yeah, let's do it.
I was thinking it was Bill for some reason.
Bill Steele, Jim Steele.
We're on the right track, but yeah, we went to the roller rink and Louis set the ring up. Someone rode with the ring, and we got there, and they had one big room in the back, but they had two entrances.
Yeah.
So, but it merged in the back, so you could talk or what have you. And we still trying to kayfabe back then, And so this big goof, I think Rico saw him walking down a beach or something. Big musclehead guy that had tried out for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He walked down the beach with his gear on, with his fucking weightlifting gloves. He wore them gloves all the time, like one of those dudes, kind of like what's his name? The comedian that wears his gloves all the time. Drawing a blank. But anyway, nonetheless, big muscle guy. When we get there,
AJ Simpson, that's the one.
Yeah, there you go. It fit. So anyway, you go in one door for heels and another door for baby faces. And like I said, it merges in the back. And we're having a show, and I'm in charge of the locker room at that time. I don't think Rico was on the show at that time. And so Larry just sent word, Louis Estrella, the ring guy, and Ray's referee. Frankie. We're supposed to take care of, everything. So we're going to the. I'm working as a baby face, and Mark and them guys are working as he. I think you're still baby facing at that time, following the lead kind of thing. But anyway, the guy Bill or Jim Steele, and it could be Jim Bob, I don't know. But nonetheless, he walked out the fucking heel locker room side, went to the ring, and I may have this backwards, but and he was the drizzling shits. Wasn't just the shits, he's the drizzling shits. It's got this big body, and he can't do anything. You can't move him. He doesn't understand that we're trying to work with him, trying to help him get better. But he does this thing where he's getting ran off by someone much smaller than him. And the big fucking goof runs to the back, and he came out I think he came out of the heel locker room, but he runs into the babyface locker room. And so I'm like, what the fuck's your problem? Are you fucking stupid? I just ripped the promo on him. I go, you a fucking retard or what? What the fuck's your deal? And I said, you can't work, you can't do this, can't do that. I said, none. And then besides that, I said, you fucking idiot. You walked out that door right there as the heel and came back in through the babyface room. What the fuck? I go, just get the fuck out of here. And then the motherfucker walked through the room and back out this door again, exposing it that much more. So he went right back out to where the audience went. So he went out one door, in the other, and then again back out the other one. Like, fucking idiot, man. Is that the story?
Well, that was half of it, but I think what the kicker to that was that we're in a roller skating rink, and we were set up one half of the roller skating rink, but the ring couldn't even stop the roller skating, which was on the left-hand side of the general skate, as our show is on.
Yes.
So while people were skating around the fucking
skating at that side while we're having a wrestling show.
They just shut it down to half, so you'd be over having your fucking moonlight dance. A bunch of maybe 13 or 15-year-olds over there, trying to snag some ass or something. So it was two different things going on at the same time. Strobe light over here, music over here is different than that. And, oh yeah.
Which only surpassed probably one other show that I did, which was hilarious. I think there's a couple actually, but this one, I think you maybe remember this one too, Bobby. There was this club that we ran. It was like an outdoor show.
The Volley Club.
The what?
The Volley Club.
The Volley Club was an outdoor deal.
And probably that bar had been several different buildings had a sand pit out back.
No. This was another one that we done, and we were set up outside, and like the road kind of ran along with this little picket fence. I'm not sure if it was by a river or somewhere. The show had been on in the afternoon, and like they'd set up a bunch of seats, and of course there wasn't many people there, but you could also just stand roadside and just watch it for free.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's the volley club.
Was it the volley club?
Yeah.
And I remember by the time the main event had come on, it was dark.
Yeah.
And no one even thought about putting on lights. And there's these 4 guys. I think I can't remember the tag. The tag team was happening. They're gigging. There's blood everywhere. And pitch fucking black. No one's watching. Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh, I love wrestling.
So, yeah. Crazy stuff. Did you do any of the car lots where you're there? Did you do a car lot show on the automobile?
I did car lot shows in Japan, but not in.
Okay, yeah. Malenko, when I was there, he had a couple of them. One of them was about an hour away at the Wheel Wagon, which was north of Tampa, but we did one over on the St. Pete side. And on that one there, it was a huge auto dealership, new and used cars, you know, and where they had the ring set up. And they used to have the Hooters girls, they had music. It was a big shindig on a Saturday, right, to lure people in, like a 4-hour deal. And they agreed to have like a match every half an hour. But where the ring was set up was like, I think it was like 19 or 119, one of the major roads that ran one way and through another intersection. So you're like right there, and people would stop at that this big stoplight, like maybe 8 lanes of traffic, you know, one of those huge ones. And you'd be out there wrestling, and I'm just thinking the whole time, it's just going to be a matter of time. And stuff like this happens nowadays all the time. Sadly, I just kept thinking, one of these motherfuckers will take their car, not paying attention, and drive right into this fucking ring. And I'll be the one in it probably, you know. But, yeah, they had those car lot shows. Shit. Speaking of Japan, they had I wrestled. We had a show a couple weeks ago, Labor Day here, and it poured the rain the entire time, and not one fucking fan left. We had about 120 people, and they sat in the rain. It started off, the first match was coming out. It started really hard for like 5 minutes, but it lifted up, and it was just a drizzle, constant drizzle. And I was telling these young folks, I said, man, I was in Japan, in Tokyo, wrestling on top of a fucking like a mall or a center, pouring a fucking rain. I mean, and a show went on, and that's just the stuff you do, you know.
Yeah, and that was in CWA in Germany as well. We did Vienna, and it was an outdoor arena there, and they'd sit there in the rain with the umbrella.
Yeah.
And they're up like that. And they're like clapping the umbrella up like this, and
kind of like
it was insane.
Yes, kind of like if you build it, they'll come. You know, like if you're going to have a match, people will find it, and people will come to that match. Sometimes it might be a small crowd, but sometimes a large crowd. But the people that are there, they want to fucking be there.
Yeah.
In fact, the arena, I don't know if you could probably go through pictures and see if you Google CWA Vienna. It was quite a lovely arena because it was kind of these sort of big hotels and buildings and outdoor, and it had like where the ring was and had like a roof over it and stuff. And you'd wrestle, and then you'd sort of walk back in. But like sometimes it would rain so hard that the rain would be coming off the roof of the ring, you know, and down. It was almost waterfalling down.
Nice, yeah.
It was just, you know, and it was every single night. It just went on. Doesn't matter what it was. The show was on.
That's right. There you go.
It was a lot of fun.
So Mark, what do you think, like, you know, wrestling over in the US and going through and having those experiences, you know, what do you think was the major differences between Australian wrestling at the time and like American indie wrestling over at the time? Because you kind of were like experiencing both. I'd assume like Australian wrestling was probably not as prevalent as what it is in 2022, but like what were some of the major differences that you found going over there, which were a shock to you?
Mark, can I say one thing real quick about that? Pierce, I don't know, Rob. When I came to Australia, on a tour over there, Mark Company, IWA, they put me up at the Ritz-Carlton and the Hilton. First class all the way. Mark had the luxury of, when he came to America to wrestle, after his training had finished,
Bluegrass.
He got to stay at the luxurious Bluegrass Inn on Winchester Avenue, which was at the time the biggest crack den and prostitution hotel in our area. Now, he had planned on staying with me, in all seriousness, but I had family in from out of state. This and that. Every room was taken. Like my brother's house, my mother's house, so I had to put them in a place. And our nice hotel in town here was being reconstructed at the time, so I took him to the lovely Bluegrass Inn. with all the hookers and the prostitutions and the pimps and the fucking crack, and Mark fit right in. So he's going to tell you at the hotels at the Bluegrass Inn are just probably so much more nicer than they are in Sydney. You know, he had a lovely experience on the road for Mark.
Did you do that as a rib to Mark or what?
No, that's the only place I could get him into. It wasn't a rib. It was just, I'm sorry, but this is.
Well, it wasn't that much different in Germany. I remember the first night we landed in Germany, me and Nishimura ended up staying in this hotel called the Hotel Kleiderstern, which I think is like in Vienna, is like the King's Cross. And from what I understood, that like they just carted a dead body out of the hotel literally 3 days beforehand, which may or may not have been a murder. So like, and then they had like 6 of us in a room. Like it was just, I mean, that's the fun of wrestling. You know? You're young and you're just doing, I mean, shit, you get paid to go around the world, whether we're in a shitty hotel or somewhere, you're somewhere different doing something you love. And if you're getting paid $20, $50, $1,000, you know what I mean? Like, it's just.
Well, at that Ashland Inn, me and my couple other people after the show, we went down there and we hung out, Mark. You remember we hung out till like probably 2 a.m. And then the next day, you know, someone's down there checking you out because some of my family had been traveling. They had left and it freed up the rooms. And, you know, we got him out to the house to stay where he was, you know, both these gentlemen were, you know, I was very honored to have them in my home. It practically became family, you know. But, I had to throw in there. Mark got to stay at the Bluegrass Inn. And hopefully you forgive me for that, Mark. So,
I mean, why is there like 5 locks on the door here? Like,
the last time I was at the Bluegrass Inn, believe it or not, was about 4 years ago. And I had met up with one of these ladies of the evening, we'll say. And those 4 locks you're talking about, the first room the guy gave me, I went in to check it out, and there was no fucking locks. Yeah. None. They was like ripped off. So you see people had busted in probably, you know, to retrieve bodies or ODs or what have you. So I went back out, and then I knew I wasn't going to stay. I was like, I'm only here for a service. She's got to stay, but on my dime. So I was like, I went back out to the lobby, you know, got another key, got another room, and it had like 5 locks. And she had been around, so I think she understood. When you leave, all 5 of those get locked, right? And I'm like, yeah, you know, and put a chair against the door too. So,
yeah, a lot of independent, but like I remember, like, you know, it's fun because you sort of do the independence, and then when I finally did get to go to WCW and you were there, and then suddenly you start staying in sort of the bigger hotels, and all the boys are there, and some of the parties that used to happen at like the Atlanta at the airport. What was the hotel?
Marriott South.
Oh my God!
Waffle House right there in the parking lot. Waffle House. Yeah.
Me and Booker T would go down, and we have a waffle.
But yeah, I think they had the bar right there to the left, right when you went in. They had a big bar area that the boys hung out at. It was the right near the airport, you know, right there, right in that vicinity.
I remember there one night and we're there, and there must have been like everyone was there, right? And I just come back from Germany, and Scott Hall had been in my ear.
It might have been Ramada South. Ramada South. That's what it was.
And Scott Hall was in my ear, and he was telling me how much of a big deal he was in Germany and however he was with Otto. And I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, like, you know, which is nice, obviously, Scott Hall, but like the same as like, can you get me a fucking job? You know what I mean? Like, so and I'm sitting there, and these guys are partying, and then like I think at the time, like, who was there? Vader was sitting there, and he was sitting down just drinking beer with Harley Race. The next minute, who just came in town was Public Enemy. Had just started there, and Johnny Grunge. And what was his partner's name? Rocco. They were hammering down the drinks. Anyway, something happened. This commotion happened. The next minute, Johnny Grunge's wife comes in the bar, starts this fucking enormous argument. And they're arguing in the middle of the bar, all the boys around. It was like a rabid, like ECW arena watching these two argue. She storms out. Johnny Grunge goes running out, Ramada, out the front door. And then, like, she jumps in the car, and he literally latches onto the car. It's like something out of a movie theater where he's holding onto the car, getting dragged along the car park. And, like, the boys were watching in the thing, and it was like, man.
Well, speaking of WCW, you guys obviously were there at the same time. Did you guys help each other in a way to get into WCW, or was it? Did you guys get in it with somebody else's help?
Well, Bobby was already in there, so
Yeah.
like he already had a contract. So I mean, I wouldn't say like he helped me, but certainly Bobby walked around was extremely helpful in introducing people
As
and saying,
always.
"Oh, this is my mate Mark," and everything else. And that's what wrestling is. It's a contact thing, and you meet people, and you get introduced, and it's a likewise thing. So yeah, certainly he helped me immensely.
Yeah.
Going around, I didn't know the layout. He certainly had been there, and
We I had a talk with a few months prior to going. I could have went about 2 different times. I could have went, and it just didn't work out. And then finally, I came back from Japan for like the 2nd or 3rd time, and they called and offered me a contract or a tryout, a dark match, then a tryout. So I was already there, and then, like I said, a lot of times when you're there, the only thing you can do is make an introduction. Like I knew Terry Taylor or whoever it was. I'd say, it's my friend Mark, because you just got a contract, and even though it may say 2 years or 3 years, it's every 90 days it's going to roll over. So some people are just there hanging on to their last paycheck anyway, and so, but you're always happy to see someone that you've like. We wrestled in Tampa in training, and then on shows there, little spot shows like we talked about. And we wrestled in Sydney in Australia, and I think we wrestled together in Melbourne in Australia, and then here in the United States. I'd have loved if they had any fucking I don't know, any type of leadership that could, they was just doing whatever, but they would have gladly, they should have put Mark and myself together for a TV match, or even a fucking dark match when he's been there. I was in New Orleans, Louisiana, and I was standing at the arena, and Joe Malenko walked up to me, and he had been in wrestling at that point like 24 years, and he was just going to go to spend some time, on the road with Dean is what his objective was, and had a little free time, and they gave him. They said he had a tryout match, and he was laughing. He goes, "Bobby, they're giving me a tryout match." Well, they gave him some young green kid from the fucking power plant, and Joe, here he's been all over the world and this and that, and of course he couldn't even. It was really an insult. But my point being, they should have taken. I told Joe afterward, because he's like, "Man, that kid," and I said, "Man, I wish you'd have asked for me. I'd have done everything, because it's a dark match, whatever you wanted to do." And he goes, "Yeah, I know, but then they don't know who the fuck they're putting together back there." And that's the same thing. If Mark had walked up with him, had a little bit of stroke, I could have said, "Can you maybe give my man here a dark match or put us on a TV match together, and let us do our magic." But you'd go there and it's 5 to fucking 8, and they're still looking at the whiteboard going, "Well, I think this match goes here, and I'm not putting anyone over, erase my name," and all that bullshit political stuff. But yeah, it was good that Mark got to come and experience that. He wrestled the Georgia Dome in front of 30,000 people, Mark.
That was a big thing though. I was in Germany, and Terry flew me back to come and do Nitro.
Yeah. That's a big deal, man.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I said, I think that was a Georgia Dome,
which is surprising because I think a year or two I had a match with Rob Van Dam. Then it was the fucking drizzling shits.
Really?
It was Robbie V back then. We both had a horrendous match, and I don't know why we didn't gel. I mean, like when we worked out prior, it was like it went quite well, but we always laugh. Like I've spoken to him a couple of times, and I said, Rob, I hope one day we maybe get a chance to.
Was that in Florida or was that in WCW?
That was in WCW. It was Center State, I think we did.
Okay.
How much politicking was going on back then in WCW? Like, did you guys witness any of that stuff? Because like everyone talks about that sort of happening in WCW.
I saw it firsthand every time I was there, but that's not my game. I went. I knew what my deal was when I spoke to Terry. I knew what my contract said. I knew that, like Arn and Terry and Kevin Sullivan were good to me. They were, mostly Arn and Kevin were like my agents. I spoke to them, so I didn't get involved in. Once I went into the war room and they said, hey, this is Mark Mercedes, and you two are on the board together, make it a 50-50 match, blah, blah, blah. I do my deal, go over and talk to whoever. Hey, I know your finish. You know my finish, whatever. I'll see you in about 10 minutes. We'll go over this match. After the match, knock on the door. Hey, boss, how was it? Okay, next town. I didn't do it.
Renowned the committee. You've got 8 minutes, no problems. You'd sit down and work a match. You're standing there, at the drill position, ready to go. They go, oh, by the way, you now have 3. Oh, okay, excellent.
Including entrances.
I don't know if I told the story last time or not, but like I was in Knoxville. They brought me in. I was working with Booker T per his request, and Knoxville for me is a drive, not a flight. So I just drove down there, and I get there, and basically, I don't get to wrestle Booker T because someone higher up said, I don't have enough TV exposure. Well, then I'm going to go 5 minutes with, from 8 minutes with Booker T to 5 minutes with Raph. Well, then come to find out the night before, Raph had put Nash over somewhere, and Raph was hot about this. And Terry Taylor said, well, Bobby, I hope you get, have a good 3 minutes in there. And that's the day he turned around. He took a few steps. He said, you're the most underused piece of talent we have in this company. And I, thank you. But anyway, so we get to the gorilla position, and there's Orndorff, and he goes, and in the ring is Bischoff and a couple of his cronies or whatever, and it's 9 o'clock, and they go past the hour, and so Paul's like, "You got 3 seconds." I'm like, "What? 3 seconds?" And so again, we're at like top of the hour kind of thing, and. Brian, a really nice guy. I'd met him in Smoky Mountain when he was a Night Stalker. And I look at him, I say, well, fuck, Paul, what am I supposed to do in 3 seconds? He said, give him a boot, Brian, no sell it, pick him up, finish 1, 2, 3. I was like, I really did want to say, you know what, fuck this right now. I'm gone. But I was like, also like, you know what, I got a paycheck this week, and it comes every 2 weeks by FedEx, and that you're fucking here to do a job. You could be doing something else, making a lot less. And, so I went out there and done the deal. But the good thing about that was, because it was on a Nitro, I was eating with a couple of the Armstrong brothers later on, and they said, Bobby, don't worry about it. No one fucking saw that. He goes, it was 9 o'clock. Everyone was turning their channels to Raw. And I never had anyone bring that up to me like, oh, I saw you on Nitro or whatever. No, because everyone flipped the fucking channel at 9 o'clock. That's when they was coming on at 9, doing 9 to 11 time, So I'm like, but that just shows you what kind of like how things would fuck around when you got there with the politics and stuff, So it was pretty crazy. They had a lot of good guys there. I never had a problem with the agents or anything. Just done my job, and I never had a problem with the boys. Some of the boys power plant, they're like, I want to do this and do that. And I'm like, well, I don't want to do this and do that because I don't think you can fucking do this or do that. Just let me follow because I know what my job is. Let me lead you through a match, and I'll take your fucking finish, and we'll go home from there.
Did you go to the power plant much?
I went there one time, not to train. I had a meeting with Paul Orndorff. I had to fly out of town early and go out and talk to him about some business. And that's the only time I saw it,
They sent me there for 2-3 weeks, I think I went there. And
yeah, I thought you did. No, I flew in early, and I had to do something with Paul concerning a match I had, and maybe some plans on another deal on a pay-per-view. It just didn't pan out. But, I only went out there one time. I didn't work out or anything. I had to go to the
I love WCW. Like, a bunch of matches I had, but there were so many times I was there booked and I didn't even wrestle, and I was still getting paid fucking damn good money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
$500 US a night or something I was getting paid. I didn't even do. I remember they came to Australia. They paid me $1,000 US. I was meant to wrestle here at the Entertainment Center, and then they pulled me at the last minute because I was meant to wrestle
David Flair.
Was it David Flair?
David Flair.
Yeah, and then Terry Taylor goes, "You're not doing the job for David Flair in your hometown." Pulled the match and fucking got paid $1,000 to sit on my ass and eat catering and fucking drink beer.
I wrestled David Flair in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and Arn is his godfather, and Arn said, "Bobby, the least you give this kid, the better off you are." And they said the finish is what you're going to do is have him down in the corner, putting the boots to him. Ming will come down, give you the death grip. You won't even know it because you're looking down in the corner, kicking him some way. Put yourself in position, and he'll just realize that he's not getting kicked anymore, and he'll put the figure 4 on you. So we get to the ring, and I carry this bastard for about 8 minutes. And the only thing I give him, I said, grab a headlock. When he does, I fucking belly to back him, and I just stay on him. Now, I'm not hurting him, but I'm staying on him, boom, boom, until the finish. I got him in the corner. I'm leaning over. Kick. Ming comes down. So that's the fucking killer of the company. And I said, hey, you didn't even really get beat. The killer of the fucking company put you out before he put the leg lock on you. So that was on a pre-recorded Thursday Night Thunder. The next week, I'm waiting, and of course, I got paid for that week. I'm waiting, going, oh man, this is going to be like, this is better than a victory on TV because I'm beating the fuck, getting over, showing my shit, and man, they took it and completely did not put it on there. They had a confrontation between David Flair and Chris Benoit in the back, and Benoit took him down for like a crossface, and that was the edited. They just edited my shit right out, and I said, fuck, man. That's just the way he treats you. My check still came. So you're like, but, you like that exposure. You like getting to show off what you can do, and those things. But it's like I might as well have been with Mark and said, well, Mark, we're just going to sit here and eat their catering. I shouldn't even had that match. I just,
He was a hell of a nice guy, Meng. He was a great guy. I remember he was very hospitable. And
who's that?
Meng.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, man. And that wasn't a dig towards David Flair. He was young and didn't know anything. He was just doing, he was told, but he didn't know how to do anything. And like you said, why should he have to put you over in Sydney, just because he's with WCW and who his dad is. But again, it's just one of those things. It's not a dig towards the guy. He just didn't really know. He was just doing what he was told. And, Ming and Barbarian, those two guys, I wrote about it in a book, man. I had to get ready to wrestle Flash Norton, and he'd come in and he was getting wild. He had a match with I think it was Ernest Miller the night before, and he just was stewed, man. And I was like, God, he's going to kill me. He's going to kill me tonight. I've seen his work. He's stiff, and I'm sitting there tying my boot, and I'm looking up at Ming and Barbarian, and because they was always good to me, man. And I saw him walk out of the room one at a time and come back in. And Barb and I were really close at the time. And he goes, Bobby, tonight, no worries. Okay. So I go back out to the war room and, get ready to go to the ring. And Scott's there. And I had trained with Scott. That's another thing. I had been on pay-per-view, and for about 3 days we stayed up in Detroit, and I went to the gym with him each day, and so that was several months before. So we get there, he goes, Bobby goes, I seen what you can do. Let's just have a good match tonight. I said, yes, of course, And so we got in there. I worked around him like headlock, switch, hammer lock, make myself look good. Boom, he cuts me off. I'd get up and do something, and he'd finally, big chop, big power bomb. Didn't feel a fucking thing. Of course you feel the chop, Of course you feel the impact of the power. I go right back to Arn Anderson's office for the war room, and he goes, hey, Bobby, how was it? Did the big man get stiff with you? I said, no, sir. I said, easy as can be. And Arn looked, and I go, yeah. I go, he took care of me. And then he come through, and he goes, Arn, book me a fist kid anytime you want, man. He goes, Bobby, that's the best match I've had since I've been in WCW, and I've been here 2 years. And I said, well, thank you. I went back to where my locker was at, and I went right to Ming and Barbarian. I said, thank you guys so much, because I knew they put a bug in his ear, like, take care of Bobby. He's not why you're in a bad mood. Don't take it out on him, And I've talked to Barb since then. I've told him, I said, man, I want to tell you, thanks for looking out for me a couple of times and having my back. He goes, oh, yeah, there's no need for, for that kind of stuff thing, So, I appreciate that. So, also, just to let you know, tomorrow I'm going to be seeing Arn Anderson. Mark, you'll appreciate this. We got this, the founder of this city, Pogue Landings Days. They're having this festival downtown for like 3 days. And Jeff Jarrett was going to be here, and he had to cancel. So they're bringing in Arn Anderson and Dean Malenko tomorrow evening for an autograph signing. Yeah. So I saw Arn about 4 or 5 months ago at a signing. We were together, And I got to speak with him, and that was really cool. I haven't seen Dean for quite a while. I used to speak to Jody on Facebook quite a bit. I think, Mark, you stay in touch with him, I believe. But yeah, I'll get to see Dean tomorrow evening, so I'm looking forward to that, you know. And then we've got a big convention here October the 1st. It's called Bluegrass Wrestling Con 3. And Jerry the King Lawler's coming to town. Stan Hansen.
Is Ricky Starr? Is Ricky Starr on it?
No, Ricky Starr's not on it. Maybe Swamp Man. Swamp Man might be. Swamp Man. So yeah, you know, there's a lot of good stuff around here that's happening. You know, I appreciate that because it, you know, gets me out of the house and gives me something to do sometimes to see some of these guys I haven't seen for a while. So,
how do you guys think that the wrestling business has changed over the years?
Wow.
Who wants to go first? Well, I think here in Australia, if you own a wrestling ring and have watched it, apparently you're a promoter.
Jumping Castle.
Yeah, it's like anything, you know. I mean, there seems to be so much access these days, and just so many guys claim to be wrestlers or promoters, and live out a fantasy of that. You know, like wrestling to me, obviously I enjoyed it, but it was, you know, it was a job.
I think now too, so one of the things I see that just pisses me off to no end is just anyone thinks they can get in it because they're a fucking cosplayer. You know, I'm like, God damn, you know, just get over yourself. You're not a fucking video game character. You're not a cosplayer running around at one of these Comic Cons, and because your buddy owns a ring down the street, he's going to promote it, and you know, going to bring their 50 fucking family members, and you know, it's just bullshit. You know, it's like backyard mud show wrestling or what have you, as Cornette would say. And so I really like when I see a company putting effort and money into something and really trying to promote a show and put people in it, know how to work, not just a fucking bunch of high-flying 5-minute high spot matches, monkey spots, if you will, or whatever. And that to me is like, and of course, a lot of that is to do with the internet and with the someone, I can go watch a training video now. I can do this. I can watch that. And they got their own YouTube channel. They always multi-level streaming things, Instagram or Facebook or whatever for their channel. And, you know, to them, they're a big fucking star. And they're like 20 people, you know, and they're probably in their young 20s sitting around watching these guys in some backyard wrestling organization. And they think they're fucking stars because they're cosplayers. That to me is I remember, and I listen to Cornette a lot, and I'm not here to plug his podcast because he's got fucking all the listeners he can use, you know, or needs. And, but like he says, man, you know, the bottom line is when I was growing up, and I put this in my first book, when I saw a wrestler, to me, he was a grown ass man. It wasn't some young kid. And he looked like, and he could, and he would whip someone's ass. And you said, that man right there is a bad motherfucker. Whether he's a baby face or a heel, he was a grown-ass man that looked like he went to the gym, that looked like maybe, you know what, he probably smoked about 2 packs a day, probably drank about 10 cups of coffee a day, drank about 12-pack of beer a day, and he went to the ring and fucking put on a show and beat someone's ass or put someone over, and you're still playing, wait the next week, I'm buying a ticket to see them guys again, you know. And now it's like, I look at these people and I think, fuck, my little granddaughter could whip their ass. You know, I'm just like, I'm looking at a guy 125 pounds. And I can do these flip-flop. And I do a hardcore match too. And I'm like, yeah, well, you won't be walking in about 5 fucking years, but go ahead and keep on doing what you fucking think you got to do, you know. And that's not a dig towards anyone trying to live their dream. I try to help a lot of people. I try to pay it forward. I want to see people do good. But, man, sometimes you got, like Mark, back to Larry, I got to be taking their fucking disc or saying, yeah, I'll be watching this. And I'm watching the fucking ring going, yeah, okay. You know, and just kind of baby face them and, you know, pacify them, if you will. So, yeah.
Did you guys see, there was, I think it was like, I don't know, Adam Page from AEW did an interview recently where he turned around and said, I don't really need to go and ask for feedback off veterans. I think wrestlers need to figure it out for themselves. Like, people can't get, like, the advice people give you is pointless and useless, because it's like you have to figure it out for yourself. As three guys that have been around for 20 plus years in the business, what's your take on that? And that can go from all three of you. We'll start with Bobby, then go Mark, and finish up with Robbie.
I just saw the replay of it, and I thought that's the most craziest fucking thing I ever heard, because I think you can always improve and seek the advice of someone else, especially if you're a big company there. And I know they've got, like, for an example, and I've heard this firsthand just a couple weeks ago. Ricky Steamboat was there was a show in Charleston, West Virginia, and I was doing a con thing right beside it, before the show started, et cetera, a WrestleCon type thing. And then I saw Ricky the following Saturday, I guess it was, and he said he was in the back over there, and the guys, they've had guys like Arn, Dean, they had Tully there, Jake, and Ricky was in there agenting a match, and he's like, these guys don't even come in the back. They don't even speak to these guys. They don't even know, the knowledge these guys could pass on. So I don't know if it's, and I don't know Adam Page. I don't know if it's just him or everyone that thinks, I don't need to go seek this old fucker's advice over here or whatever. I personally think I'd be going to that person going, hey, what can I do to get myself over better? Especially if you're getting to be a star and getting a push like he is. So I don't know what his deal is. Maybe that fucking guy, he knows everything. I don't know, because I don't know him. But, he may not need any advice. I don't know. He's got a job there. He's figured out a way to get a check. Well, that's cool, to get a check from the fucking billionaire. But again, I don't know him. But I just, from a established professional wrestlers point of view, being pretty much in all aspects, from a talent to agenting matches to booking matches and shows, I think there's always someone you can go to and say, hey, man, how can I do this a little bit better? Or what did I do wrong? Why did my show only draw this many people? How can I promote it better? There's always something. How can I put, leg slaps? I hate the fucking leg slap. How can I learn to kick without doing a leg slap or something? You can always improve something. Your punches look like shit. Well, your kicks look great. Well, keep kicking. Don't punch. Whatever it is. So that, I don't know. I think everyone could benefit from getting advice from someone more
That's better.
Professional.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Absolutely. But before we go into Mark, it's funny. So what I was told by someone in the know who was actually backstage in an AEW event, and whether he saw this or he got told, it's from a reputable source. But Jake Roberts went up to a younger talent in AEW and said, hey, let me give you a bit of advice. When you do this, and the talent went, let me stop you right there. I've already got a fucking contract. So go and shove your advice up your ass. And this is Jake Roberts, who's probably the greatest fucking promo in the history of the business.
And great psychology. Great psychology.
I feel it's almost indicative of just, I wouldn't say just young people these days, but I mean, just how much the world has changed with reality TV, all these things are just, people just, that whole idea of asking the older generation, cell phones and TikTok and all these things is self-entitlement, and I'm just a blend of everything. And just, maybe I'm just an old bastard. I mean, I don't know. But asking someone for advice or something like that who has clearly been there, done that, and done successful can only enhance you. So if you're that arrogant, you think that you've got it all and know everything, well, I mean, I guess you'll find out in 5, 6, 10 years their career going to last as long as a Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Probably fucking not. The wrestling business has changed so much. I mean, shit, it's changed so much since we were in the ring. So, man, I wouldn't be one of the person to tell Jake the Snake Roberts to get fucked, to tell you what. So, that's some serious balls.
Robbie, you're still wrestling. You've seen from 20 years ago to now. How do you think that the business has changed or evolved over the years?
It's obviously quicker. Psychology's gone. Well, it's just limited. You know what I mean? I notice that when I work with a lot of guys these days, I have to. It's easy. It's easier because I have to. They have to plan quite a bit. You know what I mean? And they're like looking at me. What do you want to do? I said, don't worry. I'll work in between. Whatever you want to do, because they're not comfortable. And I get really I have a bit of I pop myself a little bit because if I call something in the ring, a backdrop or something like that, I come backstage and and they're telling me, I popped heavily for that backdrop. I go, what? Oh, nobody really calls that, really? I'm like, what? Everyone asks, what's your comeback? I don't fucking know. If you're running at me, I'm going to hit you with something. I'm going to throw a few things. I think, and they also have that mentality. You can only throw a couple of clotheslines, but they don't realize that off a shine or something like that, you can hit 2 drop kicks in a row. You know what I mean? You can hit 2 arm drags and then something else, and you go boom, boom, boom. But they don't have. They have that. They do a big long spot, and then all of a sudden I just hit them with a drop kick, and boom, they peel out, and it doesn't flow. Like it doesn't go bang, 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 and then take them down or something like that, or they feed out, clothesline over the top rope type of deal. So it's good because they're much more athletic than what we used to be, but also too the psychology. It's nowhere near what it used to be. And if I had to get advice, like if it was me and I was in a big company now, the only people I would be going to would be those older guys.
Right.
Because of the fact that they've actually been there and they've done that. They know what it takes to get over. They've been over before. Of course, I'll try and do what like Taker does, incorporates new with old, but you got to have, that balance. But yeah, the psychology is definitely, it's lost a lot. It's a lost art. What we have is a lost art, especially when we're working. Like there's guys that can go out there and work, wrestle, don't have to say shit, and then there's guys where you just have to plan everything. You know what I mean? Because wow, they just don't know, and that's what it is. They learn all these moves at training now. They in this day learn all these moves, but they don't learn how to work, and that's a totally different thing.
Yeah, and that's and going back to advice, Robbie, you and I have worked a show with a young guy, and every show, this young kid, like he's very green to the business, Bobby and Mark, and he come and ask me, go, what do you think of my match? What advice can you give me? And I always tell him, I'm like, bro, you're asking the ring announcer who's never taken a fucking bump for advice. I go, I can give you an opinion what I think, but I can't tell you how to do that shit better. Go and speak to Zucco. Go and speak to this person. Go and speak to this person. Go speak to the guys that can give you help. All I can do is fucking critique you on an opinion that I have of watching you wrestle, and my opinion might be completely fucking wrong because I'm not educated enough to give you advice. And then he'd go and say, well, he refused to give me it. I'm like, well, fuck. You know what I mean? Like, it's not my place to do that, bro.
Guys, just excuse me for a second.
So going back on that Page thing, Hangman Page, you sure it wasn't a work that he said that, or was that actually real?
That was a real thing, and Punk actually addressed it in his press conference where he turned around and said, "What a fucking idiot!" Fucking.
Yeah, I heard. I think it was Dutch Mantell said the same thing. Like, man, you know what? But like I said,
I don't know how they do. Honestly, Bob, I don't know how anyone in any type of profession, when you got some people you don't learn unless you work with better people. You know what I mean?
Right.
You don't get better as a worker, as a wrestler, if you don't work with better people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why your quality drops. So if I've been wrestling on the indies, if I'm wrestling, just mediocre talent, I'm not going to get better until I start getting guys that are better than me. And there is plenty out there. There's a lot. I just won't get any better. And that's just my mentality. If I wrestle with guys that are great, then I'll have good matches. I have great matches. If I wrestle with guys that are mediocre, we can do like a passable match, but you kind of drop down to that level.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think you wrestled when you're WCW, Ernest the Cat Miller. And when I watched that, it looked like you're pulling teeth. because he just wasn't listening to you. If you rewatch that match, I think you just randomly just gave him a belly to back. You know what I mean? Because he just wasn't listening. He wasn't cooperating. And then that goes, he didn't have that knowledge that he had.
I appreciate that. And that's one match I recall that I worked with him twice. And the first time, you know, basically he went to Pez Watley and Arn Anderson, and they said, shut up and listen to Bobby, you know, and I was right there. And yeah, he can do all this karate stuff, and it's no disrespect to this and that, you know. I was trying to call him stuff, and he just didn't understand what the fuck I was trying to do, work with him. So I knew my job basically to just get him over the best I could. But yeah, I think I bellied and backed him out of nowhere, smartened him the fuck up. The second time we worked together, he was getting ready to get this big push, and he said, the bosses said I'm not allowed to go off my feet. They don't want me going off my feet. And so we're like in the first couple of matches for the first TV, and he turns his back to me, grabs the microphone, he's doing his gimmick, and he turns his back to me, he says, Billy Blaze, you know, blah, blah, blah. He goes, when I turn my back, you better not be here, because I'm giving you a chance to you know, exit the building, so you save you the humiliation of getting beat or whatever. So I know what he's already told me, that the bosses told me they don't want me leaving my feet. And my name's Bobby Blaze, not Billy Blaze. So I'm getting a little bit stewed. So I'm sitting there waiting for him to. We turn, and of course, he hands the microphone back to the ring announcer, and I double leg dive that motherfucker. I took that karate motherfucker off his feet first thing, and he was lost. And I worked my way up and put him right back on top. And I think he done a spin kick, and I went down 1, 2, 3, and I walked through the back. And they said, well, you showed them they could be taken off his feet pretty damn easy. And everyone's laughing their ass off at him because I just fucking done a simple double leg dive, put my shoulder there. I could have rolled him up, but I just, you know, worked through it and put him back on top, you know. And that's not a dig towards him. He's trying to do his character, and he's getting a push, and, you know, he's one of the power plant guys and all that. But just let the guy, trust the guy you're working with that I'm going to make you look good, not like an idiot, because I can do it. But it was so funny because just, you know, Arn or Terry, you know, open the door. How was that? You had to take them off your feet, didn't you? Yeah, I did. You know, then I went down to where I dressed at, and the Armstrongs were going like.
So did you get any punishment for that? Because is that
no?
Like,
actually, I didn't. I think he kind of just icknayed me like "fuck you" kind of thing, but I didn't give a fuck anyway, you know. But no, actually, what happened was I got real lucky because I was gonna be off TV for like the next 4 or 5 weeks, so it wouldn't hurt me either way because I was going to the next day or 2 days later. I was flying out to Vancouver to do the EA Sports video shoot, so I was off TV. It didn't matter, you know, and it's all fucking forgotten after that anyway. But yeah, just it's just called respect, I guess, you know. Yeah. And I can't remember who told me something. I think it was Arn. Next day at the airport, you know, he smiled at me again, and he had said something about, yeah, you just had to take him off his feet, you know, like, well, you know, and it just gave me a grin, you know, but it is what it is, man. But yeah, go back to the point of it was my job was to get these guys over that had less experience. Now, and again, that's nothing towards Ernest. I have nothing respect for the guy. He's a karate, you know, champion, and he's fucking got all his students that still have respect for him. So I'm not going to sit here and bury him. Another one though is like Glacier. Glacier had worked up in North Georgia and worked shows and had been to Japan. So when he was at the power plant, when you had matches with him, and it wasn't just with me, it was other guys too, he was like, "What do you want to do? Do you mind if I get this in? I do this kick." Very professional, because he had been, prior to the plant, like yourself, Mark, he had been to another place to wrestle, you know, a week here, a week there. He smartened up, yeah. So he knew, oh, okay, this guy's going to make me look good. And plus, he had seen my work in Japan. He had seen my work in Smoky Mountain. So he's like, oh, you know, this is not just some guy that's going to come in here and, you know, make me look like an idiot. He's going to make me look good. And that's what I did with him the couple of times I worked with him, you know.
It it doesn't take long to cotton on to realize that, you know, if you don't get on with the guy that you're working with, you're going to have a pretty shit match pretty soon. Like, it's in your interest to make sure that you are on the same page, because you can be the best fucking guy in the world, but if you aren't on the same page, it's going to be a pretty shit match pretty quick.
I always want to go out there and try to get the fans. They paid hard-earned money to be in those seats, and I wanted to always give them their money's worth and try to have a good match. Let's do the best match we can do, no matter how you feel or I feel, whether we're friends, we're not friends. You know, it doesn't matter. During this 5, 10, 20-minute time period, we're going to go out there and deliver a quality match that these people can have a reason to clap for, or a reason to boo, or something. Give them something they paid for, you know. But yeah, you have to be able to do that.
Did you do center stage a lot?
What? No, I didn't go to center stage. No.
At all?
No.
Oh, really?
No. I was already doing the Universal. I just went to Universal for the worldwide tapings. That was the only ones I was doing.
You did no Saturday night tapings at
No, they started doing those at house shows. They would do. You would do a big weekend, do a Friday, Saturday if they had a pay-per-view on a Sunday. But usually at this point, it was only one pay-per-view per month. They did Nitro. Well, the next night after Nitro, they would schedule a town about an hour away and just do 24 matches. And it'd be the first 12 was going to be on that first Saturday night, and the second 12 were going to be on the following Saturday night. And it was just a repeated cycle.
So when did they can center stage?
Oh, that had to be, maybe early. I was there in.
No, any other times I did center stage.
Yeah, I don't know what year they stopped doing it, to be honest with you.
That was a great little arena.
Yeah, I don't know.
Has another company run there since then? I'm sure another company had.
TNA did, didn't they?
Did they?
I think TNA ran it. TNA.
I don't know.
Okay.
Did you ever do the Omni?
No, there was already the big arena you got to work in was up.
Georgia Dome, that's gone.
Georgia Dome, yeah. So,
going back to what you guys were talking about before, you're right. In this day and age, making somebody look good, people have that trouble doing that. Hypothetically, there's quite a bit of talent on the scene that I deal with, and you ask them to do something, they go, "No, I'm not. I don't want to do that." And I go, "Why?" Because it's going to make me look bad. And they're going, "But you know, you're not working here. You know what I mean?" So people are a lot more self-conscious about that type of stuff, and they're like, they just really, it's not going to make me look cool, but you're a fucking heel. You know, you're going to look like an ass. You're going to look like an idiot. You know, and they don't know how to just put you over. Like, they're not very creative. You know, it's like, okay, I'm going to go over with my finish, and that's their creative idea. I'll just finish you with my finish. Okay, yeah, no worries. Yeah, simple as that. They don't actually come up with some cool little move that's creative. It's like, we'll work out this big spot and go to the finish, which is your move. So,
guys saying that's not going to make them look good and stuff like that. Is that just wrestlers being marks for themselves, though?
No. It's a lot of wrestlers that don't understand how to work, and they are marks. They become marks when they don't understand how to work in the ring. They become marks. Look, if I wrestle, Mark wrestles, Bobby wrestles. If they're playing heels, they're not going to always outwork you. They'll try and work with you so you can outwork them. You know, you can outwork them, no worries at all. I can out-wrestle people, no problem. It's like, but I choose not to, so I make them look good. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're making them, you're putting them over. Yeah, it doesn't mean you know, you're going to make them look. Bobby told me this when I started. You're going to make them look like $1 million. You know what I mean? Once you do that, then you bring it down, and then you go for the hot comeback. You know what I mean? There's a whole psychology to it. You know what I mean? But people don't get it because they're not taught it. They're marks for the business, and they just don't understand. They've never been taught simple psychology. You know what I mean? They just don't get it.
Well, that's why, like, I don't I've never understood the tweener role. Like,
Yeah.
it's to me, I think you're either a heel or a face. Like, I think
I understand what that means. Bobby, you heard of that word tweener?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. To me, tweener doesn't exist. To me, a tweener is just simply this: somebody that just doesn't know how to get the fuck over. You know what I mean? That's just me. Well, it's either you go out there and you're with the crowd, or you're against the fucking crowd. You know, being a tweener, if I was just, even as a wrestler, you'd confuse the fuck out of me when you walk out and you get zero fucking reaction.
Yeah.
Because the crowd themselves, they don't know what the fuck's going on. They don't know if you're good.
Talking about this on Tuesday evening at class I did, and I was just basically saying, you worked for 3 minutes, and I cannot tell you who the face is, who the heel is. You know, they're out there trying to, and it was just, anyway, I go back to, I would say this is like 1990s, how far back, and this before everything was so exposed and all this, but it came from Roddy Piper, and he was just talking about you cannot be, he didn't use the word in between or a tweener at that time. He just said, you don't want to be, he said, you do want to be someone that people either hate or they love. You don't want to be anywhere in between that, but he didn't really say like in between. He just said, you don't want to be here in the middle. Yeah. And he said, because the person that's in the middle is not going to make any money in the wrestling business. The people that's going to make the money are the people like myself that the fans hate, or the Hogans that they love. And that's a good guy and a bad guy. And that was just doing like some kind of a, maybe HBO Sports or something, some kind of insider thing, but he wasn't exposing the business per se, but it was just basically in that layman's terms of good guy, bad guy, excuse me. You know, and if you're here in the middle somewhere, you just don't have a chance to make it, you know. And I've always went with that. I don't want to be in a fucking middle.
Yeah.
You know? We've been talking now for about an hour and a half. Does that mean, is it too early to start talking about UFOs, magic, and the Ron Jeremy trial? Like, when's on this going to we're talking about wrestling all night? Like, let's get on to the important things in life.
Well, what actually happened with Ron Jeremy? Tell me.
Well, I don't know. Bobby's, you know what's going on?
I'm in LA, Lower Ashland. I'm not in Los Angeles. So
I feel like this episode needs to be a two-parter, to be honest. I feel like the four of us need to fucking do this again.
These guys have endless amount of stories, you know.
Well, I just feel like an hour and a half has just flown by. Like, I honestly
can you make it a little bit later in the morning? Fuck. I've been up all night.
Well, let's maybe the next time we do this in a week or two, we can do it on a Friday night. When we're all available on our time and we can get it sorted. But
I'm just messing with you. I'm glad to be a part of it. Thanks for having me back on the podcast. Always good. Pierce, it's been nice to meet you, but it's always good also to see Robbie and Mark again, man, and talk to my good mates from over in Australia. It's that's one good thing about technology and the internet and things like that. It's other than yesterday, Mark, I don't know what the fuck happened to my phone. It just kept cutting you off, and I'd answer and it'd cut you off. I had something to do anyway, so. But, it's one of those things like this is just a real privilege to get to spend some time with you gentlemen, all three of you. So thank you.
I'm glad I called.
And did you become the colonel yet? Have you gotten your certificate?
No, I haven't know anything about it other than what I sent you back, you know. So I'm excited, though. You know. We'll just have to see what happens in the great Commonwealth of Kentucky here, you know, see what they do.
Yeah.
Well, you've been nominated, man. So
all right. Well, that's a good thing to know, man. But I like that.
Soon to be a colonel. And you know what, bro? I was completely surprised when someone contacted me and said, "Hey, in the state of Kentucky, this is the highest honor you can be given by the governor of Kentucky. We're giving it to you." And I'm like, "That's cool, but I've never even been to Kentucky."
That's
why I said I was like,
you look like you're from Kentucky, though. You definitely look like it. That's for sure.
I've eaten some Kentucky chicken once or twice in my life, bro.
Funny you should say it. My granddaughter, she's never had Kentucky Fried Chicken. She loves Chick-fil-A, but I took her to Kentucky Fried Chicken. That's what I was wanting last night, and I hadn't had it for several months, and I went and had some Kentucky Fried Chicken last night. So yeah, my granny used to make the best Kentucky Fried Chicken though, right here in Kentucky. So I can fry you some chicken. I get too lazy cooking sometimes, but I can fry some chicken too. It's a Kentucky thing.
Well, I think the three of us from Australia need to head over for a holiday to Kentucky.
Oh man,
we just need to convince
I
our
wish
wives.
you would. I'll go ahead and reserve your room down at the Ashland Inn. I need to get my ass over to Australia. Yeah, I said Ashland, it's Bluegrass Inn. Yeah, because the Ashland is about 6 blocks the other way, and it's just as bad. So it's that whole that whole radius right there.
Is that great picture over here? That's for sure.
We've got a real nice hotel now. That one I was talking about when Mark was here, it was being reconstructed. They've redone this one. We got a real nice place, the Delta or some shit down here. It's not the Ritz or the Hilton, but it's for Ashland. It's pretty good.
What was the restaurant? What was the restaurant across the road? There was Captain Hook's.
You got the free ticket for a 2-piece fish dinner from Captain D's.
Captain D's. That's
and I'll tell you this, he had to go to the Bluegrass. The Bluegrass is now closed, but the Bluegrass, the restaurant where you ordered, you pull up inside, they had the girls on skates and all that. They got away from the skates at that point, but they still had to, push the button or they bring it car hops and stuff. Mark got to go to that, he liked that. He liked the twin burger an awful lot. Bob Evans, yeah. But no, I need to come over back to Sydney, man, and get to hang with you guys. Maybe teach some classes or
that'd be great. We should get you over, and you can actually do quite a few seminars.
Yeah, I'd love to do some seminars.
Get everyone chipping in. I'm sure a lot of people would love to get that knowledge, especially from you.
I'd love to come over. You got a beautiful country, man. Beautiful people. So, yeah.
We'll try and make that happen. But guys, thank you, all three of you, for coming on the show. It's been a great conversation. Again, let's try and set this up for a couple of weeks to do a part 2 with all of us on a Friday evening so we can give Bobby a bit of a sleep in. Yeah. But thank you very much, everyone, for joining in, tuning in. Thank you for everyone for listening, watching. Make sure you keep an eye out for on my social medias for our part 2 that we're going to be coming out with in the next couple of weeks. But guys, again, thank you so much. It's been an absolute honor and privilege talking to all three of you tonight.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you, boys, for coming. Good seeing you guys again.
Talk soon, guys. We'll see you soon. Peace.